Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Organic Matters, the podcast brought to you by the Irish Organic Association. This week, we are joined by organic tillage farmer Gavin Tully. So, Gavin, thank you very much for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about your farm? Where is it and how big is it?
Well, we're farming here in Camolin, County Wexford, on a free draining soil with some heavy clay down by the River Bann.
And there aren't that many organic tillage farmers out there. And I know one of the criticisms that I hear a lot is that there's not a lot of information for organic tillage farmers in terms of even, say, crop rotations or types of crops to grow on the ground. How have you found that side of it?
Well, I suppose coming from a tillage background, I had a fair idea how to grow crops anyway, but there was a lot of learning done over the first 3 or 4 years there, especially with weed control and different varieties that even suit your farm might not suit my farm, things like that,
So what did you find worked well and what did you find didn't work well?
There's a list. It changes. Like a simple thing can make an awful big difference. Like the weather patterns for this year, for instance. Now, I had barley here. I've been using the same homestead barley kind of for the last 4 or 5 years, even because it was the same variety that the malting company was using. The Prospect was the name of it, and I found it fairly reliable, but a bit short in the straw. But this year now, especially when you have all that bad weather, it seemed to go back to the ground very quickly. It's a big job to pull it up with a combine. But things like that make a big difference to your year. And Prospect did well for 4 years, but there's one bad year, and if you just happen to hit the bad year, you'd never sow it again.
So what happens next year? What are you going to sow?
I don't know yet. I'm just waiting for inspiration. But I have a few. Well, you see, the availability of the organic seed is the big issue. Like, I'd like to be able to sow some of the more modern varieties. There's a few varieties done fairly well in the conventional system there this year. I'd like to get over into the organic system, but I don't know if we're going to be able to source organic seed.
And where does most of the organic seed come from if it doesn't come from Ireland?
Well, a lot of it comes through Fruit Hill Farms, places like that. You can get derogations, of course, and plead your case that you want to sow a specific variety, and that'll probably be the route I'll go down. But it can be challenging sometimes to get the proper seed, or the seed that you would prefer, because if there's seed available, you have to kind of run with that one. But
and how has this year been for harvesting in comparison to other years?
Nightmare. Say since going organic, it's probably been the worst. From a harvesting point of view, probably the worst year ever.
I mean, I think conventional farmers have found it that way as well. But say to non-tillage folk out there, just explain why it's been such a nightmare.
Well, it's just the weather has pushed the crops down, and we had the drought early in the season. The crops went in ideal conditions, and then there was crops here didn't get rain for nearly 2 months after being planted, and they got off to a very poor start. They did grow, but they didn't go ahead. And of course, the weeds, they're quite happy to grow in drought conditions. But then when we did get the rain, the grass weeds especially would have come up through the crop very fast. And when you come to harvesting, then you have a short crop of barley with a long crop of grass underneath it. And combines don't like grass; they're not made for it.
And how do you deal with weeds in your system? I guess I've kind of seen videos from places like Beach Lawn Farm or others that, if they have vegetable crops, they might have kind of like a flamethrower type yoke on the back of a small tractor. But is it very different for you? How do you deal with them? Because you can't fall back on, insecticides or pesticides or anything like that, or, even Roundup. And do you think you kind of have to be nearly a better farmer to be an organic tillage farmer in that sense? Because then so much is going in at the preparation stage in terms of getting the soil nutrients right, whether you're ploughing or not ploughing, how you manage that. I mean, all those technicalities must have to be well thought through.
You do, because if you make a mistake early in the season, you're stuck with that mistake. You can't, like I see here with ploughing, for instance. Now, if you plough early, and the ground is not like really ready for ploughing. The conventional man can go in and he'll throw a bag of 10, 10, 20 or a bag of sulfur can or something, and it can solve a lot of problems. But if I don't get a plant off to a good start, there's no more I can do with it until next year.
Yeah. And you're a stockless farmer as well. And for people listening out, that means, you don't have animals on your farm. And usually when I talk to tillage farmers, they might have cattle just for the slurry from cattle. So how do you get nutrients into your soil? Are you importing slurry, or what are you doing?
Have imported dungs and slurries over the last number of years. We also get dairy sludge from the local Wexford creamery there. I've tried the new chicken manure, the pelleted farm from should have it written in front of me here because I had the invoice in my hand a minute ago. Soil and Fertilizers, I think it's called, is it? But it's a company up in the north that are producing a pelleted chicken litter. It seems to be fairly effective. Now I only tried on the potatoes. I don't know whether it the value for money for cereal crops yet.
That'd be quite high in nitrogen, I imagine, pelleted chicken manure.
It is. It's I can't tell you off the top of my head now, but I think it's fairly close. Like a half-ton bag is similar enough to maybe a couple of bags of 18612.
Okay.
Use the old system. But it's grown a fantastic crop of potatoes now, with good strong plants with lots of foliage, and even during the drought there now they grew well.
And I know you make use of cover crops as well. What in kind of what would be deemed maybe the winter period or the fallow period, if I'm kind of right in saying that? What kind of cover crops would you be sowing?
I use a mixture mostly, but this year we have vetch and Basilia, and then there'll be a little bit of oats and a few peas or something thrown in with it, just to when you put them in the little fertilizer spreader, it's very hard. A little small bag of Basilia and vetch is supposed to go a long way, but it's very hard to get them to go that distance without something a little bit bigger just to dilute them or carry them or something. So yeah, they're all up and running there now this year, and they're looking fairly well. That was one good thing about the wet harvest. Cover crops get off to a great start.
There was a lot of talk, say, this year in terms of organic TAMs, that things had been added to it to help farmers in regards to machinery. And I know, talking before to organic tillage farmers, they'd been struggling to get the right type of machinery for what they needed. Have you met with any of those challenges, or have there been other things that maybe you think, have maybe been suitable to a conventional system but not an organic system?
Well, I suppose, but there's a nice range of stuff on the TAMs there at the moment now, like. I can't think of anything off the top of my head now that would be of benefit. The only hurdle I came across here now, I have a shed here that I was going to convert to a grain store, and you can't actually get a grant to put a brand new concrete floor in an existing shed.
Okay.
And I thought when I heard about this new scheme coming out, I thought, oh, this is going to be great. Now I'll put a floor in that shed for a grain store, and the grant will cover a lot of it, 60% anyway, sure. And but no, you have to have a complete new build. That's the only hurdle I've come across now in the past couple of months.
And would you have, besides the concrete floor, is there something that you have on your wish list that you'd like to get done for the farm?
Oh, this podcast is not long enough for the list. Yeah,
well, you never know who's listening, so tell us what's on the wish list.
Sure, some of those interrow cultivators. I have. I'm actually going to buy it. There's one for potatoes there. I'm going to make an effort to buy it. I have another steer unit ordered on it as well. Find them fantastic for sowing and planting, and I was trying to use them in a capacity of weeding as well. But the interrow cultivator for the potatoes is the one thing that I am going to buy.
And why would that make such a big difference to you?
Well, the potatoes such a valuable crop that they're worth putting an extra little bit of effort into because of the, like, if you can get them clean early in the season, they stay clean the whole year
Yeah.
after. So it's worth putting an extra little bit into them, you know.
And when you say they're worth a lot, I mean, how much per ton would you be getting for the potatoes?
Well, depends where I'm selling them now. I don't really want to go into pricing with you, but like I'd be selling them here at the yard for €2 a kilo.
Okay. Yeah. And people can do their own math then when they're thinking of going
The
into the
bigger
shop.
sales, yeah,
Yeah.
bigger sales are obviously going to be less, but like they're buying a bigger quantity, you know, like my Beach Lawn Organics, Pádraig Fahy and Una, they've been buying potatoes off me since the first year I was in full conversion. So like, you know, they're my number one customer.
And what kind of advice would you give to, say, a conventional tillage farmer who's thinking of getting into organics? What kind of things should they have in their head to prepare before they take that step?
Number one is don't mind what the neighbors think. That is the number one biggest hurdle that you'll find with tillage farmers. I see them coming in here every day, the same men come in here every day, and they'd ask the same questions, and they'd be surprised every single time you tell them, and 5 minutes later they'd have forgotten.
Yeah.
It's the weeds. People are afraid to change, and they're afraid of how do you manage the weeds, and how do you do this, and how do you do that. And it's all about tons per acre. That's all they can think of, tons per acre. If you tell a tillage farmer you got a ton per acre, you go, oh, how would you make money on that? There's nothing at all about it being, you know, the malt and barley's 550, €600 a ton. And last
Mm.
year was €605 a ton. That doesn't register at all. It's tons per acre is all that matters. So now when someone asks me many what kind of yield per acre did you get, I'll tell them in euros. I won't tell them in tons anymore.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And there's a big discussion as well in organics in terms of, I guess, ploughing and min-till. Where do you sit on that?
Yeah, I've tried both. I was mint-till before I went organic, certain amount, and I'm not 100% mint-till, but I still do a bit. I have I usually do a field every year, and surprisingly enough, the best field for it is after the potatoes. Usually, depending on the conditions that the potatoes come out in, of course. But I've had some fantastic yields after potatoes by mint-till.
Mm.
Um, I don't want to let go altogether. I did have a field this year now that was mint-tilled, and there was a lot of grass in it, but then that's just this year.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of sounds like you have to, if you are becoming an organic tillage farmer, you have to kind of let go a little bit of the fact that you're not going to have a field that is, has zero weeds in it or zero amount of grass where you don't want it growing. That it sounds like you need to change your mindset a little bit. Is that it?
Oh, you're going to have weeds, so you may just get used to the fact that they're going to be there. The only hope you have is that you don't have too many. But then I do see things like seeding rate makes a big difference. Like if you don't keep your seeding rates up fairly high and get them off to a good start, you're going to have weeds. Because I even see when you're sowing the headlands here or the drill, I have a trail drill, so you kind of have to be careful when you're turning on corners that you're filling all the gaps. You'd often have little semicircular moon shapes in the corners where you'd be after turning a bit sharp maybe, and you'd miss
Mm.
maybe a foot. But that, I guarantee you that foot would be full of lamb's quarters, you know, and like out in the middle of the field where they're 4 inches apart or 5 inches apart, they don't seem to have the same weed pressure.
And I'm wondering about how you deal with other things besides weeds. Like if we talk about potatoes and blight, or if there's other things that are happening as well on certain crops. How do you deal with that, or any fungal type diseases as well?
Well, the potatoes, I suppose, the blight is the biggest issue here. This year we grew queens, half an acre of queens. I got a derogation for queen seed. I'd always had a notion of trying queens in an organic system, but anyone that grows queens in County Wexford, like they would be, in that field every 5, 6 days with a sprayer
Okay.
and with some serious chemistry. And I was there thinking, okay, we'll try them half an acre, something half an acre. The worst case scenario, we had no potatoes on half an acre. So we grew them, and luckily enough, during the drought, there was no weed or no light pressure at all,
Yeah.
and they looked fantastic. But as soon as the weather broke, it just wiped them out.
Oh,
Only the tops now, luckily enough. There was still lots of potatoes. Now they
yeah.
didn't yield great, but then that's down to the fact. Well, it's down to two facts really: the fact that the blight took the tops off them, and also that they were growing in probably the worst piece of ground that I actually had. And the only reason I went there was because they were facing the morning sun, and I said this will be a great place for early spuds. Now to be up, the sun will be shining down here 4:30 in the morning. Get them all day, but yeah, stay away from Queens. That's all I can say. We have Satanta is the biggest variety or the most popular variety here, and they're fantastic for blight. And this year we have I just put 4 drills of Sharpo Exona in the middle of the field just to see how they perform in comparison, and they're actually today still rank green.
Wow.
And the Satanta are like tops are gone off them
Yeah.
at this stage. So I want to get down and investigate now because those sharp Exona they could be as big as turnips under the ground.
Yeah, those ones blight resistant. They meant to be blight resistant variety though.
Oh yeah, they are extremely blight
Yeah.
resistant. Yeah, the sharp Exona. All the sharpos are they're 5 or 6 varieties. The sharpo Exona and Mira, Sharpa Mira are probably the two most popular ones that we'd be familiar. Oh, I think the Blue Daniel was belonged to the same
I guess
company.
the only thing is they're meant to be a bit waxy, aren't they? And I guess some people are obsessed with their flowery spuds.
Yeah. The flowery spud is the great seller locally, but like um, the Sharpa Mira is waxy, but the Axona is flowerier.
Okay.
We won't go as far as say flowery, but they're nice. They are nice potato. But the main reason I have them is I want to run them through the harvester, run them through the system, through the graders, and see how they handle the the bumps and bruises along the way. Because
Yeah.
the Satanta is idiot proof. Like anyone that comes here for farm walks, I always say Satanta is the spud you want to grow to get you going.
Yeah. And then I guess finally as well, you direct sell animal feed as well. And that's always quite a big issue for organic farmers because it can be a hard thing to get organic feed. It can be
Mm.
expensive. And then a lot of us as well like to get Irish organic feed if we can, because it has a lower carbon footprint. So what do you grow and who do you sell to?
Well, the combination crops would have I have a mixture here. I have wheat and beans with oats, and I
Mhm.
also have barley, pea, and oat mix. I also have 5 way mix. There's beans, peas, barley, oats, and wheat all in the one mix here. It's and it looks fantastic. Um,
And then
anyone that gets it,
do you
I've
process it
never
on
had it.
site, or what, how do you roll it, or how do you process it?
Yeah, it's all processed here. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Um, I was I was in the processing game long before I was organic, so I was lucky enough. I had all this equipment before the organic came along. Like I'm 21 years dealing with roll barley now.
And
So
is it going to poultry farmers or dairy farmers? Which crop, which which mix is going to who?
bit of everything. There's pig, poultry. There's a man rang me the other day with I think it was ducks he was looking for feed for.
Right. Yeah.
So someone rang me here last week looking for whole grain because they want to sprout it and feed it sprout it to hens. Um, Dairy farmers, sheep farmers, usually in the beginning of the new year now, January, February, when the sheep are coming down off the hills, they'll be looking for a high protein feed for them before the lamb. That's probably the busiest time here.
And I mean, but if you talk to any of the feed mills, nearly all of the organic feed they have is imported. So I know you don't have a crystal ball or a magic wand or anything, but how are we going to get more organic tillage farmers into the system?
So the biggest hurdle is somewhere to go with stuff. You see, that's probably the biggest problem because I have people ringing me here every day looking for where are we going to go with this feed, and like I can't. I take a certain amount off a few people, but like you say not having a crystal ball, you'd want to have a lump of gold. Like I don't have endless finances to buy hundreds
Yeah.
of tons of organic grain, I'd say that's the biggest hurdle at the moment is you can't just run to your local grain store and dump a load of grain in his yard and get paid for it.
Yeah. Yeah. But would you have the processing capacity to do more if there was some sort of situation where, people did bring it to you? I'm talking seriously hypothetical now. I don't want anyone rocking up with a load of grain to you or anything like that.
Yeah.
But could it ever potentially be a thing for you?
Yes, I often thought about it. Yeah, I have the capacity and I have the storage and we have the facilities to do all that. It's just I'm cautious about
Yeah.
getting too involved in it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we could do it if we really had to. Like we roll probably close to 6,000-7,000 ton of grain a year on the conventional side anyway, So I could handle 1,000 ton of organic stuff, no hassle. But I wouldn't like to have to pay for 1,000 ton of organic stuff.
And how much are you
Like,
doing? How much organic stuff are you doing at the minute now?
well, there's probably 200 ton out in the shed there at the moment.
Gavin Tully, thank you very much for joining us. And for everyone listening, you've been listening to Organic Matters, the podcast brought to you by the Irish Organic Association. And for more information about organics, you can visit www.irishorganicassociation.ie. But for me, Hannah Quinn Mulligan, thank you very much for tuning in, and hopefully you'll be with us again next week.